Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Uncommon Sense with Jose Negron. Now, for the benefit of all of you who are not familiar with this channel or are watching this channel for the first time, the reason why it is called, excuse me, Uncommon Sense, because here we talk about everyday issues and we try to find logical solutions. But not everyone uses logic. For this reason, it is called uncommon sense. I just want to let everybody know that I'm currently live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. And I see we have someone already started the chat. Okay, we have the presence of Don Armando. Good evening, sir. Yes, you are. You are the first one here. Thank you very much. Now, I like to start as always to give a huge shout out to all the people who have subscribed to my channel, and I say thank you very much. I also want to give a huge shout out to all those who follow me on social media and watch my content on a regular basis. Um, I also appreciate those who watch the stream in the playback. Now, if you have not done so, what I'm going to ask that you do the following. Please subscribe, like, and hit the bell notification to all. So therefore, whenever I do prepare content, you will have the opportunity to either catch it live or catch it on the playback. Now, I see right now there's 3 people currently watching the stream. So what I'm going to do is before we're going to get into the topic for tonight, I'm going to talk a little bit regarding what everyone is talking about this afternoon, which is the death of Queen Elizabeth II, who was Queen of the United Kingdom from 1952 to 2022. So that's 70 years. Um, just to give a little feedback, she did do her help with the help in military service as a young um, armed forces individual during World War II. And the fact of the matter is, for many people in the UK, she has been the only monarch that everyone has knew, and she was loved by many and hated by some. But the fact of the matter is, she lived to be 96 years old. Okay, when you think about it, the typical lifespan of a female is 80 years old. So she lived 16 years past what a normal female will live. So I just want to say my condolences to the royal family and to all those in the UK, and may Queen Elizabeth rest in peace. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop the link so anyone wishes to join the panel. Just give me a moment. Okay. Now, just to let everybody know what is the topic for tonight. The topic for tonight is how to describe a productive male. And let me explain to you the rationale behind it. Um, Nowadays, when people talking about the typical male, particularly when it comes to some modern women, men are not looked upon in a favorable light. Men are looked on as immature, cheaters, not being responsible, some of them describe as deadbeat dads and what have you, and on and on and on. I just want to let everybody know, are there males that are not responsible? Yes. But there's also males which are very responsible indeed. So what I'm going to do is the following. First of all, I'm going to state some male attributes that makes a positive male. Okay. Also, I just want to let everybody know that if anyone wishes to enter a comment in the chat, the subscribe mode is on, which means in order for you to enter a comment in the chat, you must subscribe to the channel. Okay? So that's going to be the reality for the most part. Most of my streams, I'm going to put the subscriber mode. Part of it is to try to limit the access that the trolls have to the platform. And if you're going to make a visit here, it's not going to cost you anything to subscribe. Also, I would appreciate it as more and more people come here and watch the stream. Please give a like. Okay? It doesn't cost you anything, but it does help my algorithm. And it's not mandatory, but if anyone wishes to make a contribution so I could continue with my platform, you can hit the Cash at $cute1ny. That is $cute1ny. So now I'm going to get into some positive attributes. Okay. I have it in order, but I'm just going to state one by one. One, men are analytical. In other words, what that means is we're able to take a look at this in a situation. We begin our thought process and to examine every aspect of a given situation to come to a solution. And let me make this perfectly clear. When I'm speaking about men, again, I'm speaking about men who are productive, responsible, faithful men. I want to make that perfectly clear. This is the type of man that I'm talking about. I am not talking about the cookies and the rain race. Okay? So I just want to make that perfectly clear. And of course, ladies, if you wish to enter a comment in the chat, by all means, you can do so as well. Just remember that you have to subscribe in order to do so. Also, if you wish to give a rebuttal regarding anything that we will say, you can do so. Just give some sort of logic behind your argument, and let's not make it emotional. Also, ladies can join the panel and they can rebut all we're saying. All I'm going to say is let's keep it respectable and let's have a healthy interchange. Okay. Then the next possible attribute of a male is, well, logical. Now, I know that there are some males who are not logical. They tend to be very emotional and they cannot accept constructive criticism, nor can they take a different point of view. We have seen that already in social media, whether it be Facebook, TikTok, or what have you. But for the most part, most of the men are logical. Another positive attribute regarding men, positive men, is that we are focused. Okay? Meaning, once we have a goal, once we have a plan, once we have a path of actions that to take, we will do what's necessary until we achieve whatever goal that we seek. I'm going to give you a perfect example regarding myself. Okay. Uh, 5 years ago, I started to look for a place of my own, which I wanted to own. And I had certain goal. I had a location where I want to go. I had a type of property I wanted to go. Um, and I had certain resources, and I had a determination, and I had a plan. Um, there were setbacks along the way. However, I didn't stop until I finally became a homeowner. And this coming January will make it 5 years that I purchased my property. So, which leads to the next point. Men are goal oriented. Men are goal oriented um, for many of the reasons I just alluded to. And when I speak of goals, I speak of goals that are realistic. And how do you define realistic goals? Realistic goals are those goals where you're able to achieve with the information that you have available, with the resources that you have available, and the amount of time that you will use to achieve those goals. Okay. Another positive attribute is men are builders. Okay. Take a look at all these buildings that you see here, particularly in New York. I would say over 90%, probably higher, all these buildings, roads, streets, cars, um, modes of transportation. Who built them? Men. Now, perhaps within the last few years, you have some women who got into fields where traditionally men held, but for the most part, men did most of the building. Another positive attribute: men seek solutions. Okay. This goes back to what we're saying about men are analytical. They see a problem, they're trying to find out with a solution. Okay. And if a solution or a possible solution does not achieve the desired goal or effect, they will come up with other solutions. And they will continue until they reach a solution to a problem, which is why I say men seek a solution seekers. Okay. Men are protectors as well. Now, I know some feminists or some extreme feminists will get upset and think, well, women can be protectors too. But in nature, for the most part, that's a male role. I mean, okay, grant you, there are now women who are serving as police officers. Grant you, there are women that are serving as firefighters. Grant you, there are women that are serving in the military, um, in all sorts of capacities. And there are women in leadership. In fact, our current police commissioner is a woman. So I'm not saying women cannot be protectors. It's just that women, when you think about women, you think of them more as nurturers. But in some ways, they are protectors as well. Another positive attribute is men can lead. Okay. And let me just give you what I mean by leading, which means lead by example. Okay. In other words, if you have males that are intelligent, analytical, um, articulate, strong, manage to keep their fears in control, they can lead. And there have been many leaders throughout history that have been men. And I can talk for hours regarding um, men who were great leaders. But I don't want to make this a 10 hour or a 12 hour stream because no one is really willing to listen to me talk for 10, 12 hours. With all due respect, I am not a certain person that's just going to ramble on for that much time. Men can overcome trials. Okay. When you think about all the pressure that's been placed on men nowadays, first you have society putting pressure on men. Men need to be tough. Men are not supposed to cry. Men are supposed to be stoic. Men are supposed to do X, Y, and Z. And time in and time out, many men are successful in overcoming trials and tribulations. Um, you have men who have lost their jobs and able to find employment. I'm just going to speak of myself. Um, um, in my younger days, um, I got laid off 3 times within a year due to circumstances beyond my control. What did I do? Sought other employment until I was able to find work. And then when I got laid off again, I just sought work, got laid off again, and I sought work again. And I'm happy to say since 1994, there's not been a situation when I have not had to go through any length of time without work. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to have a guest. Before, okay, let's see. Just want to let everybody know that the views of those who appear on the panel are not necessarily those of the host of the channel. Any attempt to copy the material without the permission of the host of the channel is prohibited. By appearing on the call, you waive your rights to the image. Some of the views that people might hold may be considered offensive to some people. If you do not like the content, you can block the channel. Let's see who we have here. Okay, give me a moment. Okay, give me a moment. Okay. Oops. Okay. Okay, I have to apologize. I'm having oops some technical difficulties. Okay, good evening. Oops.
Good evening.
Good evening. Oops.
Good evening. No, I'm just joking with you. How you doing?
Okay, good. Oh, sugar. Good
Yeah.
evening.
Good evening. How you doing, Don Jose? All right. Mm. Everything good?
Hello?
Hey, how you doing? You hear me?
Hello?
You hear me?
Okay, good evening. Yeah, I can hear you. How you? Yeah, I can hear you. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing okay. Well,
Oh,
you
okay.
heard of Dawn Queen's passing,
So,
so R.I.P. to her.
oh, okay. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
tonight's topic is it's describe how to describe a productive meal. So I'm sure you have a few observations that you like to make.
Yes. Productive
Okay.
meal is a man that actually bring homes the bacon. He actually treats his wife good. He actually be in his kids' lives, and also um
Okay.
to be the protector, and also to try to steer his children well. That's why I believe a productive male is. Now, an unproductive male is the ones that try to get with women so they could have a place to sleep at night. Don't produce any income. Stay at home all day, not look for a job. And then when they get kicked out, they fall asleep. They sleep in the subway system and every summer, and then they look for a new victim every winter. So therefore, they could have a place to stay. I actually know certain people who actually fit the term like that. Hobosexuals, not homosexuals. Hobosexuals.
Okay. I want to first of all, let's welcome the Al Show. Good
Hey,
evening, Al.
oh, good evening. Nice to be on the show. First time I got a chance to be on your show. So you've been in the chat. I appreciate you coming to my chat. So I thought I returned the favor. Well, in a different way, because being on the panel as opposed to the chat. Interesting topic, productive male, right? Because you hear men described in all kinds, you
Mhm.
see all kinds of stuff about men and all that on YouTube, but you don't always hear productive and male or productive and man put together in a title. Sometimes maybe, but not always that I see. But I'm not looking at that. I'm not necessarily
Okay.
looking for stuff. I just see what comes up on my feed. So
Well,
what?
yes.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, well, first of all, before I continue, I just want to let everybody know. First of all, the Owl Show is the newest subscriber to my channel, so I just want to let everybody know if you have not done so, please subscribe to the Owl Show. He does bring up interesting topics. Of course, he does not do panels. Now, he has explained in the past his rationale behind that, but you can
Right.
still listen to his content and then enter
Mhm.
any comment as you see fit. And also we
Right
have
in the
Don
chat.
Armando, who also has his YouTube channel. So if you have not done so, please subscribe and check it out. Go ahead, Al.
Okay. So productive male, because that's specific, right? Productive male. What is a
Yes.
productive man or productive male about? Well, literally, a productive male is somebody, or a productive man is someone who is producing, whose whose existence or his life is spent producing something, right? You know, you're
Hmm.
you're engaged in activities or pursuits that are worthwhile and constructive. That's one of the aspects of being a productive man. Um, and it also depends on how you see it, right? If you're in certain kinds of industries, there are productive people and unproductive people, right? Like sales, for example. If you're a
Hmm.
salesman, they're really productive guys who are really good salesmen and the guys who die, right? Um, but
Yes.
from my perspective, as I would say, a lot of it has to do with whether you're a productive man. I'll use the term man. Nothing against male, but I'll just say man. Um,
Hmm.
I think whether you're a productive man really depends on what what part of what you've been able to do in your life, right? To get an education, get a degree, or you got a trade, or you got some specific discipline that you got involved with and credentials, and you're able to go and turn that into a career, and find a job and also turn that job into a career, and you're focused on that career, but also you may have other hobbies and interests that are also very productive for you, right? So it's a combination to me of what your work life is like, if you have a career, what your work life is like, and also your downtime. You know, if you have hobbies and interests, I think that says a lot about being productive as a man. It's what you do. You know, one of the things that I look at as a person, I'm interested in what people do for a living, unlike a lot of people. Most people are interested in people's private lives and personal lives. I'm not. And I'm somebody who's interested in more their public lives and what they do. See, what a person does for their living says a lot to me. You know.
Now,
Go.
now the reason why I use the term productive man, because see, when you say a good man or a bad man, that's very subjective. I mean, because you can get 20 people together, you're going to get 20 different definitions of what's being good. So therefore, I decided to use the description a productive male, because that's more objective. Don Armando, what's your thoughts on it?
I mean, Doc, well, the Owl Show is actually correct because it has its definitions down pat, and there's more. I guess there's more to it because there's certain people that don't have a career, but yet I guess they could be productive. That don't have like I guess an education or something like that, but you have certain people who are productive in I guess their fields or whatever the case may be. So
Mm-hmm.
I mean like whatever brings if a person is actually studying their job, that could also mean that they're productive as well. And depending on how the higher ups of each company treat you, it could actually show how much of a asset you are or a liability you are. That's from my
Mm-hmm.
experience.
Okay. Now, Al, now some of the attributes I've stated with regarding men, and when I mean men, I'm talking about men who are productive. Men are logical, men are analytical, men are goal oriented, and men are focused. What's your viewpoint regarding these attributes?
Well, that would describe me to a certain extent. Logical,
Mm-hmm.
goal oriented, um, um, rational. Um, I I think that a productive. Here's where it gets tricky. You had mentioned good, productive. Now, productive is very specific compared to good because good really is more of a value judgment, right? When you say a man is
Mm-hmm.
good, you're making a value judgment. You're judging the individual and saying that this person is of a certain amount of character, or their character is more than it's satisfactory or more than satisfactory, as opposed to someone who's bad is dissatisfactory. Productive,
Mm-hmm.
on the other hand, is tricky because you could say that person is industrious, and that is also productive. But here's the trick. Here's the trick. Oh, hi, Blasian King. Just to let him know. Um, Here's the trick. You could be a criminal and be productive. You could be somebody who breaks the law and be a career criminal and be extremely productive. And so that's the tricky part when you talk about a productive man, because there are productive men on the legal side of the framework, say the straight, going straight, and the guys who go crooked, right? The guys who break the law, the guys who are. If you look at career criminals, and I've been someone who's interviewed about true crime a few times on talk shows. I haven't really, I'm not somebody who studies criminals, but I have read about some. And I've read about criminals, and I've seen criminals that are extremely disciplined, extremely intelligent, and very, very, very productive. So I think it's only fair to say that productivity in terms of being a guy is something that is all inclusive. It is both good and bad. You can have good guys that are productive, and you can have bad guys. And I like to classify people that simplistically, but let's use that framework. Good guys that are productive and bad guys that are productive. The most successful criminals are probably very productive people. They don't rest, right? In many respects. So that's a tricky part about being a productive guy, right? Obviously, the one we're looking for are the good, the better, the law-abiding good guys or good men. We're not looking for the law-breaking criminal types. But, I only thought it was fair. I'm like, yeah, technically, in my case, in terms of being productive, I was a freelance writer for 22 years. I had to be productive. I didn't have a choice because I had to work and bring in business to make money. So when I think about productivity myself, it was enforced on me, right? It was a part and parcel of the work that I did. So I had to be productive. I'm kind of glad that I was, in a way. I look at it this way, as somebody who is an independent contractor. I wasn't unhappy when I had time off and wasn't wasn't writing an article. But I wasn't unhappy when I was working either. Because you're going back and forth and going, man, I wish I had some time off. And then when you get time off, it's like, man, I wish I was working again. So it was that kind of arrangement. But yeah, I was productive because it was part and parcel of the work that I did. And, I think productivity is good for guys, especially if you're younger. If it keeps you going and keeps you away from certain elements, depending on the socioeconomic environment you're in. Like if you come from a troubled neighborhood or something like that, right? One of the things they want to do for younger people, especially younger males, is to make sure that they have some outlet. They have something they can do that will keep them occupied in terms of time. Thus, and I would argue productivity. They're productive in this manner.
Okay. Excuse me. I just want to acknowledge the fact that the Blazing King is in the chat. And of course, excuse me. I just want to let everybody know that Blazing King also has a YouTube channel. And so I just want to, ask that if you're not done so, please subscribe and check out his channel. Basically, what I do here is that when I see other YouTube creators that either come on the platform or they appear on the chat, what I will do is I will stop and I will encourage my audience to, if they've not done so, to please subscribe to their channels and to check out their content. So I tend to do that throughout the stream. So just have to bear with me. I know this is a little different for you, Al. But that's how things are. Don Armando, do you have anything else you wish to share?
Well, Actually, listening to the Al Show speak, I could actually tell that he's a very educated individual, and he will be somebody to actually learn from. So I will
Hmm.
be subscribing to his channel as well.
Yes. So, actually, Al, while we're talking about it, would you like to share some information
Well,
about what is the channel?
oh, sure. But first, I wanted to acknowledge what Don had said. I thought that was a very kind thing for you to say. I appreciate that. I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
I only have a bachelor's degree, so yeah, I'm educated, but I mean, I'm a modest education. I call it the humble BA. I just have a bachelor's degree. I'm not a scholar or a PhD, so I just want to put that out there. You know, I didn't go to grad school, so. But about my channel, um, and thank you for actually that for that, Jose. Um, well,
Hmm.
my channel is primarily about well, it's film and TV analysis, but I also do one-off live. So I do special lives. So I can do a good amount of that. A good amount of the content of the one-off lives, and these one-off lives are about various subjects. One of the subjects that I talk about is sometimes they're uh, being on YouTube, right? I used to have a series called Being on YouTube where I talked about YouTube. Um, and
Hmm.
how it is because been a content creator now on YouTube for I guess 5 months at least, so I'm still relatively new to YouTube, and I try to and I come at it and I talk about YouTube from a perspective of somebody who is moving through it and who is a part of it who wasn't previously a part of it and who's kind of soaking it up and learning because that's the most I mean, that's the only way that I can approach it. I'm sure there are experts and people that have been on YouTube and they have their channels, but I don't, that's not my channel. So it's film and TV analysis. You'll see some analyses of movies and TV shows. I have something more recent called TV takes, which are shorter takes on classic TV shows or older TV shows or even some slightly newer ones. I haven't gotten to some newer ones. And again, the one-off lives. I also have another channel, which is a writing channel and a channel for writers. And that one is called Writer Albert Lanier. But that's my official channel, technically. That's my official. This channel, The Al Show, is actually it's a channel I had for a long time. Never did anything because I wasn't interested in YouTube. And then I got a
Hmm.
notification saying, "Oh, you can do content." So I went, "Okay, I'll give it a shot." And I was going to do 3 lives, and 3 lives turned into a fourth, and then a fifth, and pretty soon I found myself uh, making content on YouTube. So
Hmm. Interesting. Well, to be perfectly honest, I have been a serious YouTube creator for just over a year. So I have a small platform. Basically, it's a discussion forum where we discuss various everyday issues where we try to find logical solutions. And
mm,
on this platform, um, one thing I do make it clear, it's not a male platform, it's not a female platform, it's not a Latino platform, it's not a golden spear platform. It's a people platform. Everyone, and I repeat, everyone is welcome to come here, express their point of view, and then discuss it. And if they have any disagreements, okay, let's discuss them because sometimes we can learn through disagreements. I do try to keep it a safe space. So therefore, if there's anyone that's going to try to disrupt the stream, after being advised of their conduct, they will be blocked. And unfortunately, I had to block certain individuals from my platform because of their, either they were disrupted or they tried to take over the stream, which is not a good thing if you're trying to provide a safe space for everyone to speak.
Yeah, since I came here, this first time I've been here, it's so quiet and so pleasant. It's like, I mean, it's really like kind of being I mean, in my experience, I'm just going by what my experience thus far is here. I've been on numerous panels, or a number of panels, and there's some where you can have a conversation and someone comes on, starts screaming and yelling and arguing and fighting, and others it's just nothing but that. And it's, since this is the first time I've been here, it's just so quiet. I mean, I hate to use the term quiet, but it's true. It's quiet. It's like I can kind of
It's
just,
peaceful, right?
yeah, it's peaceful. It's
Uh,
so peaceful.
yes.
And I,
I mean, I credit Don Jose for that, and I could actually say with this panel and another panel that I been on called Radical in some cases, there's actually a peaceful panel where people could actually exchange ideas. Yeah, we could disagree on certain stuff, but at the end, there's no disrespect, and we could get our point across without being nasty to one another.
right, right. And you know, I, it's, I can't recall the last time I've been on a panel this just peaceful. Even the ones that are easier going and there aren't really a lot of problems, it just feels peaceful here. It feels so quiet and so calm. I mean, I know people are going, "What is this guy talking about? What's he?" Trust me, if you've been on panels on YouTube in various parts of YouTube, you'll know what I mean. You will understand.
Yes.
This is like so. It's like I'm almost tempted to go to sleep. Sorry, no offense, but I'm tempted to go to sleep because it's so pleasant. Uh, nothing about the topic. Topic's fine, but it's like, it's like just no noise. It's like, it's to come across a panel where you can actually hear yourself talk, and nobody's screaming or nobody's yelling or nobody's trying to debate anyone, and it's just so nice.
Well, there's a couple of reasons behind that. First of all, um, my name is attached to this channel. So therefore, I want to make sure that I produce quality content. Okay. Number one. Number two, I am a Christian. So therefore, there's certain things I would not allow on this platform. I would not allow people to be going arguing back and forth. I would not allow people to get into yelling, screaming matches. I would not allow people to show disrespect to anyone on the panel or myself, because if you try to do that, guess what? You would be blocked. It is that simple. And in fact, I had a situation. I prefer not to mention the individual's name, but I had an individual who swore on radicals stream he would never appear on this platform. Lo and behold, the next day he was in the backstage going on and on and on. The minute I allow him to get on the platform, he tried to outtalk me. That's a big no-no. Okay, because you're here at my pleasure. So obviously, he did not remain on the platform long. And if you see the stream, we got the shout out to the fathers. 70 minutes into the stream, you'll see what I'm talking about. Okay. Now, in general, most of the people who appeared on my platform have been very pleasant. They have been able to express a point of view, and even when they troll, as long as they keep it, like trolling, in other words, make it humorous. Once it gets to be disrespectful, that's when you will be evicted.
Yeah,
So,
I then so that makes sense. I mean, it's like on my channel, I remember doing something where I talked about why I ban people. And from the very beginning that I've had a channel, unfortunately, I've had to ban some people. And it's like, I think people come on YouTube and they think that YouTube is a place that is completely, not quite a utopia, but a place where the normal rules don't apply. Common sense and logic can be thrown out the window and they can do what they want. And then they find out the hard way. Like I know, I had kind of been introduced to panels by going in some channels in a particular space on YouTube. And I saw people or saw that people got, they would attack some other person. And what happened is the cops would get called on. And let's see, or some agency would get called on them. And or that their manager or their supervisor at work would get a call. And they'd have to see them. And so these people would say, well, YouTube is entertainment. It's no big deal. You should keep it on YouTube, not understanding apparently that the YouTube is a public medium and that people watch YouTube. It's not some private internet. It's not Discord, right? I know Discords are supposed to be private, right? But it's not a Discord.
Yeah.
YouTube is public. So if you behave like a horse's ass in public, guess what? You're going to get treated like a horse's ass. That's the problem.
Yeah.
They don't understand that their actions come with consequences in the carbon-based world outside of YouTube. They think this is all unreal. No, I'll call it surreal. I call YouTube the surreal life, but it's as real as anything else. It's just different from the world outside, meaning carbon-based world that is out there. Remember that if you go and do something, whatever you do to other people or to whomever, it's like physics. For every action, there is a opposite reaction. And people don't get that about YouTube. To me, I was a little fascinated with it. And there's a little bit of me that is, because I've worked in media and I understand. Like I used to be in radio a long time ago. I was just a board op. I did it in college and then I was a board op. And I understand when you're in a medium, there are certain rules. You can't do whatever you want. Like when I worked in radio, I could not do whatever I want. I could not play the music because I was a board op. I could not play, and I did all these rock music. I could not play what I wanted. I had a playlist, and I had to adhere to the playlist, add play promos, and stick those carts in, and so forth. Could not do what I wanted.
Okay.
So, yeah. And people don't realize that about YouTube, but sorry, that's just my...
Okay. Yeah, I just want to acknowledge that Jojo Squadron is on the chat. Good evening, sir. How you doing tonight? If you wish, the link is in the chat if you wish to join the panel. If you choose to stay and just enter comments, that's perfectly fine. The topic for tonight is how to describe a positive male, or in this case, a positive man. And I'm glad to see that you're doing very well. Thank you very much for your kind words, Jojo.
Well, I would ask both of you on the panel, do you see, let's just say, not just where you live, but also on YouTube, in the places you go on YouTube, do you see a number of productive men or males? And if you know, and if not, why so? I'll just wanted to ask you
Okay.
guys.
Actually, I do. I have come across quite a productive men. Okay. You have Don Armando as an example. In fact, when I was in Philadelphia back in July, I actually had a chance to meet up with him, and we were able to broke bread. Broke bread. And also, there are other positive, you know, men, such as the radical Latino, Brotat, True Teacher, the introvert Boricua, um, the 18th letter, MK, also the angry biracial. Um, Now there's a couple in the Golden Spear that the names escape me. So I'm not trying to you know forget. It's just that there's certain names I keep forgetting. But yeah, there are many productive males that are out there. We also come across men who are not so productive. Now I'm sure Don Armando will have a couple of words to say regarding that.
Well, yes, you have certain men. I don't really call them men. I just call them dirt. Who are not really productive. They, I've actually had shot screaming matches with one. I'm not gonna go and say what happened or everything like that, but I guess I lost my cool as a professional male because one of these YouTubers, when me and this and when me and this individual had a discussion, he proceeded to insult me and my wife. So I was not having it, and I lost my cool.
Hmm.
So my thing is
I
that
just want to. I'm sorry. Okay. I'm sorry. I just want to acknowledge that Jojo Squadron is in the panel. Good evening, sir. Don Amano, please continue.
salute to George Squadron. So
Thank you, Don.
that
Carry on.
thank you. Um, so I actually had a shouting match, and I could say that even though I'm from quote unquote the hood, I actually acted unprofessional or anything like that. But me personally, I would not tolerate any disrespect towards my spouse, who I just made a year with last August. Another thing, some other unproductive YouTubers that I have come across or talked to, most of them are how should I say? They have views which are you know which are not mine, and instead of actually spreading knowledge, they actually spread falsehoods, which are actually illogical and historically incorrect. And then they have an agenda, depending on what side of politics you are. certain people may agree and certain people can't. So it is what it is. Excuse me, I'll have to I'll be off the panel a little bit, but I'll come back because I have a call to answer.
Okay, so all right. So thank you very much, Jojo. Tonight's topic is how to describe a productive man, and I'm sure you have some viewpoints regarding that topic.
Yeah, and although I'm a little bit late to the show, I noticed that I guess some people were talking about like social movements and like how to actually be productive within them, along with just being a productive individual, you say, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm. Yes. See, the reason why I decided to discuss, actually, it's part of a two-part series. On Tuesday, we talked about, how society places unrealistic expectations on men. So tonight, we're talking about what makes a productive man. Okay, because the fact of the matter is, in far too many platforms, when you hear the topic of men are not looked upon in a positive way. I mean, unfortunately, the ones that are the irresponsible males, uh, they get more airtime than the responsible males like ourselves.
Yeah, it's just like what I think that nowadays is that just us men have been so heavily demonized to where the traditional man, or just like the man who knows how to attend to his own like responsibilities, like his masculine responsibilities, it's now seen as like a tyrannical patriarch, or even as far, and even people who would even go as far as to claiming that somehow that's even rooted in white supremacy. That's kind of like where we are at this point. So you kind of have like many of like the deadbeat men, or like even, I mean, I got to be honest here, but even a sissified type of men who are actually venerated and glamorized, whereas men who actually know how to actually be men, the kind of men that women are going to almost always find attractive, they're demonized and pushed right under the rug. But then that's just where like it's kind of like up to us to reinstill in the spirit as to kind of like what constitutes as a man. So like that's going out there, like building a legacy for yourself. And that doesn't really always mean like, like having a kid or anything, because I know that having kids isn't for everybody. But it does mean like I said earlier, attending to your masculine responsibilities, probably maybe building up something for yourself, maybe building up like interest or credit over time, and just kind of also allowing like the course of things to happen by default, while at the same time, being humbled by your experience, because like humility and experience combined also means wisdom, and it also really means knowing how to maneuver throughout like times of like hardships. And if you can really actually like get those like basics down, then you yourself are a good man, a productive one.
Okay. I want to address a point that 10 no one's lacking as soon as stated. No one wants to address the social imbalance caused by feminism. Women for higher wages. Now they achieve it, they realize they still want a man with more resources. Um, I think what we have to be mindful. Um, Feminism, as it in its original form, trying to bring equality to women, because at one point women could not own property, women could not vote, women could not discipline their children. Um, Women were obligated as far back as the 70s to engage in intercourse with their spouses if they did not want to do so. Okay. What has happened is that you have certain forms of feminism that's become militant to the point where they're not seeking equality, they're seeking superiority. And there are some that really gone off the deep end that wish that men did not exist. Well, I got news for those ladies. You take us out of the equation. Okay, who's going to build the roads? Who's going to build the buildings? Who's going to build the houses? Who's going to build the infrastructure and all the other jobs that men usually take? I don't see too many women applying for these type of jobs.
Exactly, because that goes back to like my earlier point as far as like masculine responsibilities goes and what constitutes as a productive man. She knows, the
Well,
radical feminist knows that it's going to take like a decent masculine man to fulfill those jobs that need to be fulfilled and they need to be filled in. So how are they going to really balance out the two? Hey, Al.
well, I wanted to kind of get to a point, something that you had mentioned previously. And that was something along the lines of how so-called, I don't know how you approached it, but you were saying that men who are more, I guess the generic term used to be macho. And
Yeah, I said traditional earlier though that it does
uh,
definitely not like the whole
well,
machismo mentality, but kind of more of a man like in that traditional sense, like those men who filled in like the factory jobs during World War II, where a lot of men were called to fulfill in those factory jobs. Those were very masculine jobs, and a lot of men who did those jobs were actually very traditional, kind of things along those lines, but nothing along the lines of the
well,
machismo
well,
stuff.
first, but that would be, but it'll be a part of it. That would be a part of that. But your point, you were making a point about what was kind of the differences in men and how men, you were using the term sissies, which is kind of which obviously is a pejorative term. But
Yeah, sissified. Yeah.
you were saying that certain kinds of men are celebrated and other kinds of men are seen as, uh, I guess you were saying more, you were saying that they equated it to patriarchy and control, um, and also to white supremacy or something like that. If I got that
Yes,
correct.
yeah, because like Al, like my point was like from that is that
Uh-huh.
you kind of have like that kind of mob out there, and people call them like the woke mob. They're even going as far as to saying that a man in his traditional form is rooted and somehow is rooted in patriarchy or white supremacy, and therefore we should go out and dismantle those systems. Whereas I think that, okay, yes, not everything that happened back then was great, but I do think that having a balance is key to a lot of things. So there's nothing wrong
Well,
with kind of a man who's that traditional in that sense or attending those masculine responsibility, but wokeness says it's bad for whatever reason.
well,
But yeah, go
I'll
on.
get away. Well, here's the point that I heard. I didn't hear the woke. I don't think you mentioned the term woke, but except now. But here's the point that I would make is that I think part of what's occurred, and not just recently, but over the years, when you talk about different kinds of men, is that over the years, not just now, but over the years, slowly different kinds of men have been celebrated, primarily because I think primarily because, and this is something that I think a lot of guys don't understand, is using the terms, and I don't agree with the terms, the alpha and the beta and the sigma and so forth and whatever, but using that term, the problem is that a lot of guys, let's just say alphas, so forth, are seen as problems because they create problems. because they are the abusers, the domestic violence perpetrators. They're the ones that are engaged in abuse in all kinds of other aspects. They're the ones that are engaged in, that are very controlling of women, which has been if you want to call it tradition, it's been traditional in, because that term is even misleading. Tradition, who's tradition? But historically, been very controlling of women. And so what's occurred over the years, not just now, but over the years, is all you have are different kinds of men that have come out in the forefront. And I think part of this has been because it's the men who are relied upon in the society versus the men who are the problems in the society. You have to look at what gets valued in the society and what gets valued by societies, and what gets valued in some quarters in the society are men who are going to get the education, men who are going to be able to fill the jobs, men who are going to be able to take care of all the technical and maybe vocational, but also intellectual, academic, scientific aspects, right? So you see this difference. You see this to some extent through the culture, right? And even I can see it. I'll give you an example of this. So I think this is the difference. See, what you're speaking of is you're only looking at one kind of guy or one kind of man. And the assumption is always that masculinity is just something that's performative and overt and very specific. Masculinity is just the makeup of a man, right? But what has changed over the decades are the types of men, right? I'll give you a cultural example. The show The Big Bang Theory, right?
Mm-hmm.
I never could have predicted a show like that would be a huge comedy hit. Never. Could not have. Why? Because those men in that show are not anyone's idea of the so-called uber masculine alpha males. They're no one's idea of that. In fact, they're not. What they are a bunch of scientists. And of course, comic book collectors and sci-fi fans. I used to be a comic book collector and sci-fi. The only thing that's different is I don't have a degree from Caltech or MIT or anything, and I wasn't a science major in college. But the point that I'm making is it's different kinds of men that are valued and people are interested in. And I would argue that the shift in the so-called limited view of men has taken place in this society, and that's why something like a Big Bang Theory could be a success. Is that the only reason for the success? I would say no. There are plenty of other reasons for it. But looking at the kind of men on a show like that, they're no one's idea of, masculine alpha males. They're not alpha males at all. But what they demonstrate, among other things, is that you don't have to be one type of man in this society, and that other types of men are valued in the society. And I think that's an important lesson or important point to make, because a lot of what I see on YouTube is men having to fit into this narrow definition of manhood, and you have to be, you have to do this, and you have to be that. And you have to get control of your woman, and you have to be able to tell her what to do, and you have to do this, that, and the other thing. Nah, come on, it's nonsense.
Yeah, you mind if I jump in on that, Al, if it's all right?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so that point that you brought up, though, in regards to how, like, what's also glamorized nowadays are, like, men who are essentially trying to micromanage women, or control and even perpetuate domestic violence. Well, statistically speaking, that's why women nowadays are the first ones to initiate the divorce process 70% of the time. But in mine and Jose's ideal definition of a great productive man. Now, I'm not really sure what exactly your faith is or if you're of a faith, but if you're not, that's totally fine with us. But in mine and Jose's, like mine, what constitutes as that productive man is a man who loves his woman as much as Jesus loved the church. And even in like books of like Matthew and Colossians, it even talks about how, men and women is submit to one another. Men and women, you two become one in flesh, and you two give up each other's passions towards one another. But if you're able to do those very things, then you constitute as that productive masculine man as much as she constitutes as the ideal female, at least in our perspective, though. But definitely not like in the mundane worldly perspective of, oh, I need to go and micromanage my woman. Oh, I need to make sure that she wears this. Oh, she better do this, otherwise she's going to get lashes. That's definitely
But that is
taking it way
religion.
too far.
But what you just described is religion. The
Oh yeah,
perspective that you stated prior is your take on the religion. But what you just noted later is religion. That is what happens in religions. So that all those things that you mentioned afterwards, better do what I say, got to get lashes, all of that, that is a part of religion. So
that's true, though. It is just in mind and
right.
Oh, sorry, go on.
And
It's just what I was going to lastly say is that it's more about relationship as opposed to religion, at least with me and Jose.
Right. So
but yes, it's balance. But go on.
Right. But the reality is taking it outside of the limited framework of religion, which is ultimately opinion anyway, and someone's personal opinion. That's what it really boils down to. Taking it outside and dealing with the world in general and reality in general. There isn't one way to be a guy. There isn't one way to be a man. There are different kinds of men. But the message you get on YouTube in a number of quarters is there's only one way to be a man, or there's only this or that way to be a man. And the reality is, it isn't that way. The reality is that there are different kinds of men. Some men are going to be, and I don't want to get into dating and all that, but just to briefly state that some men are going to be successful at having women. Other men are not going to be successful at having women, right? Some men are going to be productive. Other men are not going to be productive, right? So there can be people, just like I mentioned in the previous example sometime back, that you have men who are criminals that are productive. They're breaking the law, but the career criminals especially can be extremely productive, extremely effective, right? Just as you have people that are not productive, but they're not terrible people. They're just not productive. They're people that aren't, they don't do much in life. They're not really doing anything. They don't have anything going on in their lives. But they're not a threat to anybody. They're not harming anybody. They're just, doing their own thing. So what's tricky is that when you talk about productivity, getting back to that point, and productive, it's never quite as simple, because you could have people that are on the wrong side of the law, quote unquote, that are extremely productive, and people on the right side of the law who aren't productive at all. They're not industrious in any way. So it's always a great, it's to forgive the use of the title. It's 50 Shades of Gray, as opposed to, black and white.
Yeah, it's just like nowadays it's just like you have like the culture which preaches that men have to conform to these standards in order to constitute as men, but nowadays men are just valued by how much money they make. So if you're able to make
that's
it up
always
to
been
that
the
higher status like position,
Right.
then yes, then that's what constitutes as a productive man. But that's not the case at all,
Well,
because regardless of like where you are, we have to acknowledge that we're human, we're not perfect, but if you can actually meet like your basic necessities and still be able to like show like your due diligence, then you're productive. And just in my opinion, regardless of like how much you're taking home on an annual basis, because that's not
Well,
really
now
going
this,
to matter much
now we're getting
because those
into
are
a
just like
very
materialistic lens of looking at like things
well.
going
That's
on.
always been the case. When you talk about marriages and relationships, financial and economic aspects are a part of marriages and relationships, especially marriages. After all, you had dowry, dowries anyway, in dowry, bride price, whatever it's called. So this is an interesting sort of sub kind of how do I put it, off ramp from the main highway, right? So we're getting into industriousness, but financial aspects in regards to women. So you brought up an interesting point. Your point was if a guy, specifically in regards to relationships, and you had said something earlier, and this is what I wanted to address, what I wanted to say. I think what a lot of people don't understand is I think a lot of women, or a number of women, if these are women that have careers or have jobs and have incomes, the reason why they expect a man to have a certain standard or status isn't because they need his money. This is what a lot of people don't understand. They don't need his money necessarily, but they need to know that he can make one or have money or earn money or has a job or has a career or has that, so that that man won't be dependent upon her, A, for money, but B, is somebody who can take care of themselves. Because often women get into relationships with guys who can't take care of themselves in way, shapes, or form. And not just in so-called modern ways or postmodern ways, but also because they haven't really been bachelors. That's a whole other aspect. But this is why I'm always wary about guys who can't really do a lot of things for themselves or didn't spend a lot of time being bachelors. They expect their girlfriend or wife to be the new mommy and be taken care of. They want them to wash clothes and cook and clean and all that. Go ahead.
Okay, excuse me. I just want to acknowledge the fact that Golden Goddess is in the chat. Gigi, if you wish and if you're able, the link is there to join the panel. Maybe you have a different perspective regarding the topic. If you're not able, I do understand. Um, so let's bring back Don Armando into the topic, and I see hybrid vigor is in the chat. So I don't know if this is the real hybrid vigor or is it someone pretend. So Don Armando, go ahead, please.
All right. To say what the Owl Show said, he is right, and George Squadron also. But the thing is, though, to me, is this. I mean, with being a productive man and everything, it's like now when we're talking about productive men, it's not like we're talking about productive men when it was like the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and the early 2000s. Now with all these gender norms, George Squadron is right. Well, whatever you want to identify yourself as, you have to is now they want to see how much of a cash cow you are, or how much value you bring to their company monetarily, or something like that, or how you sell yourself also, which will make you as a productive male, or whatever a person wants to identify themselves as right now, because with all these new terminologies and everything like that, it gets very shaky. Now we're in the year of 2022 with all the gender norms and everything.
Hmm. Yes. The fact. Okay.
Good point.
Now, as far as Georgia was making a point earlier. Um, I am a Christian. Okay, I have been a Christian for 34 years, and people look at Christianity as a religion. It is a religion, but in my estimation, it's not just a religion. It is a way of life. It is a philosophy, how a person will interact with others and how they will interact with their higher power, which in the case of Jojo and myself, and I believe Don Armando as well, is God.
Yes.
Yeah, like, and also like going back to like maybe the controlling or micromanaging of like women and everything. Just me personally, I would never want to do that because I mean, like, not only is it just really going against just my personal morals, but she still is a human who still has free will at the end of the day, and I want her to use her own free will to, put forth her own heart into me and into our marriage or relationship. But I can't make another person do that, or I can't really micromanage them into doing that. She has to do that on her own terms, and it really has to just organically sprout up from the soil. But with all like the control issues that, yes, a lot of us men have, and we do even battle a lot with pride, I don't want that. I want something that's natural and organic, but I can't get that if I'm seeking to micromanage her.
Hmm.
That's, yeah, it's funny. At the end of the day, I can only speak as a sort of single guy. What I have is control of myself. And I don't like the idea of anyone trying to control me, and thus not interested in controlling anyone else. Um, so that issue of control that's just my basic stand on that. But when I think about um, something that you at Jar Jar had stated, which is about relationship, like productivity in regards to relationships. One of the things that I hear, and again, this is something that I kind of want to make, I think needs to be said. Um, I think people don't understand that things have changed, right? And so, yes, like the all average guy understand, like average guys just don't get certain women, or they don't get women, or you could be a so-called average guy, have a job, and be productive, and what have you. First and foremost, being productive doesn't ensure being in a relationship. That's one thing I would state. You could be a guy with a good job, decent income, doesn't mean you're going to get a woman who's interested in you. And again, I would argue partly that's because not only have times changed, but a lot of women understand that that's not a smart move, is to look at a guy from the standpoint of what this guy, not so much what the guy has, which is a part of it, but they don't see him as the answer to, at least a number of women don't see a guy as the answer to their problems, because they're in a society where they have to be able to take care of themselves. They have to be able to get a job. They have to be able to be educated. They have to be able to have a career or business, and they may have kids. So they've got to be able to raise their kids. So with a number of women, women have to. It's often said that women have to, the women or females. I hate to use the term females, but women or females mature faster. They're also a number of women are also more adaptable. They're flexible because they have to deal with a lot of issues and obstacles in life, even to this day. So for them, I think at this point in the society, for a number of women, simply having some guy who's productive in terms of relationship doesn't mean anything. Great, he's got a job. Great, he makes a decent income. That's not enough. It's nice, but it's not enough. And part of it is historically that other women and women and relatives and others have always looked at women in general in terms of getting them to see that you have to make choices, right? Especially in regards to a potential boyfriend or husband. So women are usually advised to be choosy, or at least to have a framework of selection in regards to men. And a lot of men either are not aware of this or probably disregard it. And you shouldn't. And it's why you hear, some of this may be BS, why you hear people talk about, average guys can't get wives, or women aren't interested in certain guys, or women aren't interested in this. Yeah, they're exercising their prerogatives. At the end of the day, women have to be able to take care of themselves. Most women are, regardless of whether they're conservative or liberal, left or right or whatever, or in the middle, they are looking to take care of themselves and have to take care of themselves. And so they, A, need to know that a man can take care of themselves. But B, they have to be for them, they are geared towards making choices that work for them. And when a relationship doesn't work, women bail out, generally. Not always, but generally women bail out because they have to. If they're in a situation where a guy could be an abuser or is abusing them, it could be their life on the line. So simply being a productive guy, and I see this with the so-called average guys, at least talked about on YouTube. They don't understand that that's not enough, or that in and of itself means nothing. Oh, great, you're productive. Great, you got a job, you got an income, you're productive. So what?
Okay. Excuse me. I just want to acknowledge the fact that Art Nutso TV is in the chat. Good evening, sir. Thank you very much for stopping by. Also, Art Nutso has a YouTube channel where he discusses multiple topics pertaining to the African American community. So if you have not done so, please consider subscribing to his channel and check out his content. It's very interesting, and I think you'll find it stimulating. So thank you, Art, for stopping by in the chat. So, and one thing I have noticed with some of the modern women is that they tend to shame men if they decide to go outside the United States to go overseas to try to find a lifetime partner. I mean, it's just that it's just that men are trying to find a relationship with someone that they can grow, that they can work together, that can achieve something. And for some of these modern women, I mean, they're not really an option because they have like multiple issues.
Yeah, well, I just think that a lot of like women nowadays, and even men too, since we're no exception, we just all need to know that, relationships and marriages are not going to always be peaches and cream. And also, like, the perfect man just does not exist, but how can both sides demonstrate maturity and just how to become more filled in wisdom and more filled in the spirit in order to make things work out? Because that's where it
Mhm.
ultimately boils down to.
Yes. That I
Okay,
agree.
someone in the chat had said something. Could you put, uh, Jose, could you please put that back up on the screen?
Okay, one moment. See if I can.
Yeah,
Just give
I
me
just
a
wanted
moment.
to
This is
respond. Okay, yeah. Um, Again, here's what you got to understand. What changed? You can't look at things from a limited perspective. There is no, how do I put this? One of the things that I talk about, I mean, when I do talk about relationships, which is weird because I'm a single guy, it's kind of odd as a single guy to talk about it, but it's all right. One of the things that but I look at it from a objective point of view. One of the things that I bring out is this: we live in an all hands on deck economy in this country. Men and women have to be able to take care of themselves. So women can't uh, think that they are going to rely on anyone to take care of them. They haven't done that in a long time. Not really. There may be some women who think that way, but most women, they can't operate that way. And that's the way it's been for decades, not 2022 specifically. We're talking a number of decades. So the idea of a man being a sole provider hasn't really been the reality in this country and in a number of countries for a while. First of all, it's not fair for the man. And this is one of the things I talk about. The whole breadwinner provider model has always been unfair to men. Because if you can't produce, if you can't provide, then not only do you not necessarily get into some relationships, or you're not able to get into relationships, you're also not able to hang on to the relationship. Because the relationship is predicated on breadwinning and providing and finances and material aspects. Once a man is unable to provide, once he's unable to provide and give all those material aspects, the woman's gone. Because the woman has to, especially if she has kids, she has to think about her family. And this is one of the things I've also brought up is, in my view, once a woman gives birth to kids, I always say men are on the clock. Regardless of whether she will divorce or not, or leave or not, men are on the clock. Even if she stays, men are on the clock. Because now that she has a family, she will look at that, her priority, even if it doesn't matter whether she's career, she has business, doesn't matter. That's part of her priorities, her family. And she will look at what do I have to do to take care of them? I don't need you. This is what happens in a number of marriages and has over, I don't know, decades and decades, maybe hundreds of years, is the kids become the priority of the mother because she's historically been the minder of kids. So she has the responsibility of making sure they're dealt with. But once that happens, once you have kids, you're on the clock. And she will do what is in the best interest of those kids. And if leaving you and divorcing you is in the best interest of those kids, then she'll do it. And so when you talk about providing and the idea of a guy as a provider in this economy, that's really never really been the case. Yes, there are guys who work and they have families and they provide for their families, but it's really just not the reality. It's that to some extent it was, and even then it was never a fair reality. And you have to also understand that, again, women are historically been obligated to be able to choose. When I hear guys say, well, I don't care if she has a career, or I don't care if she has a job, or men don't care about that, the first thing I say is, if you don't care about all those things, then you're going to pay a price. Because down the road, she will care. And she'll go,
Okay.
ooh, you got unemployed. Oh, you lost your job. Oh, you lost the business. Sorry, I can't stay in poverty with you. I got to go. I got these kids to take care of. I got to have, I got to be in a better situation. Bye. And that
So,
partly will happen.
Okay. Okay.
so
Excuse me.
that's
Excuse me. I just want to address this point. Can you address the point of men being forced to accept women as equals while they still think along cave women lines of men being the provider? Okay. Um, this is how I look at it with the modern women. It's like they want to have their cake and eat it too. They want to. I mean, some women want to be the boss chicks and all that, and be independent and what have you, and and be able to make their own money for their own what have you interests. Yet at the same time, they expect the men to play the role of the traditional male, which being the breadwinner and taking care of her needs, his needs, and the children's needs. So let's get first let's get Don Amando's point of view, then we get Jojo, and then we get Al. Don Amando.
All right. I mean, if you actually look at this modern day, there's a lot of competition. There's a lot of ideologies that are being placed as far as what you're supposed to be as a man and what you're not supposed to be. So it actually varies from society and from a cultural aspect as well. So my thing is that if if a woman values you as a provider and as her protector, albeit the financial aspect of it. If she sees that
Okay.
you're a hardworking man, 9 times out of 10 she will work with you, or y'all could build together. But if a woman want a man who is already established, has his has his own house or apartment, has the newest car, whatever the case, 9 times out of 10, if the woman is not on the same page as that man, there's going to be friction, whether albeit divorce or or some the female party or the male party will either suffer a financial loss because two people were not on the same page. That's my view on it.
Okay. Jojo, your point of view?
so love is a complicated thing. It's also a big thing too. Love, what it is, it's that willingness to sacrifice one thing for another. So if she truly loves this man and sees all the good value in him as far as his diligence goes, which is what even Dawn was addressing, if she sees that in him and sees that his heart is just in the right place as far as his work ethic and even his spirituality goes, but something unexpected happens to where he may or might have lost that 6-figure income job that he has, she's going to stick around because she truly loves this man. if this entire time that she's saying that, oh, I didn't want to be in poverty with you, see ya, well, that's just honestly a very tacky woman who was just using him from the start. And that's just not really something that us men need to get ourselves caught up in, because I've been there and done that. And it's just only going to tear you down emotionally and spiritually sooner than things could even get started. So that's why nowadays, I'm a business owner myself. I'm still struggling. I'm still within the working poor category. But I would wholeheartedly appreciate a woman who sees where my heart is, which is in the right place as far as my diligence and work ethic goes. And if she sees that, despite the fact that, yeah, I'm somewhat impoverished, then that's great. That's a woman of good class. But if she's just looking just to use me or hope that I get like maybe over six figures or something, or if something happens to where all that stuff goes away when none of us expected it, then that will just probably put a very bad taste in my mouth regarding women, which I will refuse to do. But yes, nowadays you have a lot of women who are like that, but then that's just where we need to redirect our focus to the other women who actually can value us in all shapes and form. Because again, the perfect man just does not exist, nor will he ever exist. He can have six figures, he can be a millionaire, but is she going to want to stick around with him if he's narcissistic or very prideful or even abusive? Think about it.
Okay, Al, your point of view, and try to keep it concise, because there's another point I want to address after you address
Right.
this point.
Sure. Here's, I think, the problem that here's what I observe of one of the problems I think that I see now, since I've been aware of these relationship experts or dating gurus or whatever the hell they're called on YouTube and so forth. I used to think it's, the cliche is that women are romantic, but actually, no, I think men are romantic. And I think the problem with a lot of men is that they get socialized and conditioned to believe that they will get loyalty, they will get love if they are if they are someone who can be a breadwinner, can provide, can have a job, and or a career or a business or what have you. They believe they will get a woman interested in them and get a woman to love them if they are a certain stable, say, productive type of guy, right? And the problem is that their expectation, their view of relationships is idealistic, whereas a woman's view of relationships often is pragmatic. And this isn't really talked about. I think women view relationships pragmatically, not simply based upon what they can get from a guy, which is often the stereotype or archetype, but whether being in this relationship will be worth it to them. They have to assess that because, as I mentioned before, if they have kids, they got to be concerned about those kids. They have to be concerned about the environment in which they're at and their family's environment. They also have to be concerned about the economic aspect. Women in this society, and it's about societies, are often the sort of steely-eyed pragmatists. They're the realists. And men are often not realistic, not when it comes to relationships. And that's what I see the issue is, or one of the issues is, when I hear a lot of this stuff on YouTube. So this expectation that because a guy is a provider, has a job and is good and is a provider, that he can have a woman who will be interested in him and thus loyal to him isn't realistic, because a number of women are pragmatic and realistic, and they understand that they are going to do what's right for them. And often guys don't do what's right for them. They do what they think will be right is the right thing and right for others. And that's what I think the problem is.
Okay. Excuse me. I just want to state that thank you, Blasian King, for stopping by. You're always welcome to come and enter your comments in the chat. I'm just going to highlighting the next um, comment, which is as women reach equal pay, the percentage of men having more resources shrinks. Obviously, if women won't accept men of equal or less pay, society begins to degrade. And then the next point is it doesn't go away if you make six figures. The standard's just raised to reset things. So, any observations?
Yeah, it's like I said about women being realistic and pragmatic. The idea that simply because and when you talk about accepting, I think what was the comment about equal pay or, um, you know, um, as women make more money and they advance more and so forth. Again, women do things, especially in American society. Um, they have to be sorry, they have to be realistic, or they are realistic, and they often have to be because of the way the economy is. It's a what I call all hands on deck economy, where both men and women have to be able to take care of themselves and sustain themselves. And so I think a lot of guys, again, have romantic expectations. Some of them, a lot of them are romantic, I think, but expectations that a woman should be interested in them because they have a job, because they have money, because because they're a nice guy. None of that means anything. So what? I mean,
Mhm.
Okay, you're a nice guy. One of the things I've said about relationships is this: two aspects. This is the only one I'll talk about. Um, the, all relationships, romantic relationships, are predicated on attraction. If a woman is attracted to you, then she will be in a relationship or can be in a relationship with you. If she's not, she won't. Conversely, with a man, we know that that's true for men. They have to be attracted, right? And conversely, but a
Mhm.
woman has to be attracted. Women aren't going to be attracted to your job because you're working your job. They're not. Women aren't necessarily going to be attracted to your income. They may be interested in it, but they're not necessarily going to be attracted to your income. They may be attracted to money and what it can get them, but they're not necessarily going to be attracted to your income. They aren't going to be attracted to to your education because it's your education. They care about their education, their job and career and business, their income,
Mhm.
right? So that's
Mhm.
what they care about. They don't care about a guy. And so I think a lot of men still believe that all they need to do is just, be a decent guy with a pretty good job and an income, and women will be interested. No. If they're not attracted to you, it doesn't matter. They don't need to be attracted to after all, they're not going to be married to your bank account. They're going to be married to you. And if they're not attracted to you, they won't marry you. I don't, I can't put it any simpler. I can't put it any blunter or simpler than that.
Well,
Okay.
honestly, man, I would like to be like attracted to whatever woman comes into my life, but I won't just like her just because of her physical beauty. There will be other things, that's for sure. But yeah, I would love a woman who I'm physically attracted to.
Okay. Don Armando.
I have to say it's right. Sorry, I have to how should I say I have to end this real quick because I've actually got some traumatic news. So I'll be seeing you guys.
All right. Well, thank you very much. very much for stopping by, and thank you very much for your point of view. Just be safe out there, Don Armando.
Okay.
Nice to
Espero
meet you.
que tengas una buena noche.
Gracias.
Okay. So, Jojo, any other observations before I highlight the next point?
Well, I felt like I got everything out that I wanted to get out as far as like productivity, masculinity, men and women, what constitutes as a good man and a good woman, and just how to do things that could actually be like conducive to a healthy marriage or relationship. I think I got out everything I needed to get out though as far as those aforementioned points goes. But so if you two guys have anything else, let's hear it.
Okay, well, let me just highlight the next point. Al, do you see women being realistic in your day to day? Do you see marriage/birth rates in line with what you are espousing, or you're describing an ideal unicorn?
Well, for the last I checked, birth rates have kind of gone down in a number of countries around the world. Maybe marriage rates to some extent. I can't state that definitively. But I think women, most women, or a good number of women, have always been realistic, and they've made decisions based on what was realistic for them in the social and cultural context. It's the society and culture in which they were in. There are those who also took risks, right? Because they didn't want to be weighed down by the society and culture they were in, right? I remember hearing about, and so I say that I think women are realistic because they've kind of had to be. It's interesting, again, that romance is, because you have romantic novels and romantic movies, is associated by women, but I think the biggest romantics are men. I think men are always the biggest romantics. I think women are actually more realistic than men. I remember hearing once, I think it was the guy, Young Turks. Was it Cenk Uygur? I think
Cenk Uygur and like Anna
Uygur,
Kasserian.
yeah. He said that he had an aunt that was supposed to get married because he's from, I think his family's Turkish. He had an aunt that was supposed to get married, and the aunt contested it. And I think largely the defense of the aunt in this arranged marriage, or what would have been arranged marriage, was, well, look at this guy. This is what I'm supposed to be with? I don't think so. I guess she got it voided, or not the marriage, but I guess the arrangement, or the initial attachment in terms of being fiance, voided. Women, I think women do what's best for them, and have always tried to do what's best for them. And now they're in a position in this society and some other societies where they can do what's best for them. And a lot of men still aren't used to that. And I think understandably so, because men have been sold a bill of goods. They've been sold a bill of goods saying, if you do this, that, and the other thing, hey, women will be along for the ride. They'll like you. They want to marry you. And if they marry you, they'll be with you till death do you part, as opposed to till divorce papers do you part. And I think men have been sold, and been conditioned and sold a bill of goods in this society and other societies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, one thing that I've noticed, that many men has chosen to remain single. Part of the problem is that they keep running across certain women that are very toxic, and they brought a lot of emotional baggage into a relationship. So the man who made the decision, you know what? They're gonna they're gonna be single. They can cook for themselves. They can clean for themselves, and if they wish to, they can get into go out and meet up with a lady and do some casual activity.
Yeah, it's just nowadays you just have like a lot of like men and women nowadays who are just not really whole with themselves just yet. Even for me, I already know that I still, like have some healing that I even need to continue to undergo after getting out of a terribly like toxic relationship with my ex fiance 3 years ago. And
Hmm.
sometimes I don't even feel whole with myself. So, like, in order for like the ideal partner to come along, you just have to establish that wholeness with yourself, and then your relationship or marriage, hopefully, can culminate to a marriage will be fruitful.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm a single guy, and I've always been single, and um, it's I find it a lot easier to be a single guy. I mean, but part of that I think is what I found is, and I'm sure a number of people might endorse, might agree with this, and might understand this also, is that you have to kind of live, you kind of have to live um, a kind of, I think you just have to be satisfied for one thing. I mean, for me, I I, I can't conceive of when I look at relationships and marriages and all that. It just seems to me not like a. It doesn't seem like a good place to be. And I've never had any any second, any thoughts that being single is not where. I mean, it's always worked for me. I think part of it is just one freedom, but also I think the idea that it's also the individual. I think to be a person who is going to be effectively single, you have to be a person who is satisfied with themselves and has interests in life and things that keep them, dare I say, productive. And I think
Hmm.
being a single man is also a matter of can also be being a productive man. I think being productive helps a lot because it keeps you focused. You got a career, you got a business, you've got job, whatever you've got. It just keeps you focused.
Hmm. Well, I just see another comment talking about how, you know, the online dating coaches, uh, okay, I'm going to say allegedly milking people online and alarming rate because I don't have any
Mm-hmm.
proof either way. So I don't like to
Well,
say anything.
I think I know what they're talking about. Like I said, I don't take those people seriously. I don't take a lot of what I see about relationships and dating and all that on YouTube seriously, because these people are basically money hungry and money grubbing types, and that's why this whole average guy thing is big in these circles on YouTube, because oh, you're an average guy who can't get women. Well, come and take my course, and I'll teach you how to be quote unquote assertive, aggressive, masculine male, and they'll be interested. No, no.
Mhm.
Women are either attracted to you or they're not. And I don't. And I've made this point, and it's like, you know, it really comes down to, if you're going to be in a relationship, it's what, if you're going to be in that kind of relationship, it's going to be what woman comes along who is attracted to you. If you can't find a woman that's attracted to you, then you won't be in a relationship.
Mhm.
That's what it really comes down to. But nobody wants to hear that. They want to hear, oh
Mhm.
well, uh, well, productive meaning maybe having a job or a career or a business or something. Maybe. like I said, it's complicated. It's not always the same. There are people who are not productive, but they're perfectly fine people. And there are people who are productive that are terrible people, right? So being productive in and of itself is not a cure-all for anything. I mean, I think it helps.
Yeah.
Like I said, as a single guy, I think it helped me to be productive, to be working and as an independent contractor, as a writer. I think that was effective. But again, I oriented my life kind of mostly toward my career. But I think it was helpful. I think it was extremely helpful. But some people,
Hmm.
they don't want to, they're not productive. But they're not bad people, they're just not productive.
Okay. Well, I since no one else is going to join the panel, and I don't see
Uh,
any other comments. So I think what we'll do is we'll start to wrap this up. I do
yeah.
appreciate all those who appear in the chat. I'm not going to start naming names because I might forget someone, and I don't want anyone to feel slighted. Just want to say thank you for all those who entered their comments in the chat. And
Mhm.
Al, I'm gonna ask for closing remarks, and please try to keep it brief.
Yes. Okay. Um, it's interesting. What is a productive man? Um, Obviously, I would define it as somebody who is chiefly engaged in something that takes up their time and their energies. Um, for example, work, like a job, a career, business. It also means getting an education. That's a part of it. And I think also your hobbies and your interests. I think that's what being a productive man is. But the tricky part about a productive man is that is just that productive, industrious. But it's not a cure all for anything. It's good,
Hmm.
but it's not a cure all. I mean, you can't go. You need to be productive, and this will fix everything. No, it's a good healthy thing. If it's toward the right end. But again, there are people who are not productive that are perfectly good people, perfectly good men, nice guys, but they're not productive at all. And there are people who are productive that are terrible, horrible guys. So that's what you have to look at. You have to look at the gray factor, meaning you have to look at the complications that ensue in life. And that's the one thing I would say. But overall, I would say it's good because it keeps you on a path, work, education, work, career, and then hobbies and interests, especially when you're retired.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Al, for appearing
Thank
on the
you.
platform. This was your first time, and hopefully
Yes.
you'll consider participating in other streams whenever you are available. Um,
Yeah.
there's not going to be a backstage tonight, but thank you very much, Al. And I ask,
Thank
if
you.
you have not done so, please check Al's channel. Okay. So,
Thank you for having me. I
and of
appreciate it.
course, thank you very much. And of course, I'm just going to, Tim, made a point which was everyone needs to work, and if no one works and become productive, what will become of society? Again, the whole purpose is for tonight's stream is to discuss what makes a productive male. Um, we can have several definitions, but basically, productive male is one that's that's mindful of what he needs to do, is mindful of responsibilities, fulfill his responsibilities to himself and to society as well. So, thank you very much, all those who watched it live, and I thank all those who's going to watch it on the playback. What I'm going to do, okay, now tomorrow we're going to have what's called open discussion, which is basically what it means, open discussion. I'm going to be talking on a few topics, and then If the audience have any other topics to discuss, um, we'll discuss those topics. And I see here Tim's desire to make the nuclear family great again. Um, that's the actually ideal the vision of a family. So tomorrow I'm going to be live. I'm scheduled for 6:30, but I might bring it to 6:15. In any case, I will be live. So if you want to make sure that you don't miss any of my content, please set the notification to all. So therefore, whenever I produce content, you will have the opportunity to catch it live or catch it on the playback. And with the notification set to all, you will get notification 30 minutes before I go on the air. And I just want to say thank you very much. And I thank you. Thank you very much, Tim. Okay. Um, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to close the same way I always close. Do not let the errors of the oops, excuse me. Do not let the errors of the past damage your future. And we must do everything possible to minimize our contact with the mentally and intellectually challenged. Because if we fail to do so, we will be infected by their stupidity and massive insanity. That being said, this has been another episode of Uncommon Sense with Jose Negron. And I just want to wish everyone a pleasant good night and peace out.
Strong.